Hey there, I hope you're doing well. My name is Arya and today we're going to look at some more Reddit stories. If you enjoy Reddit stories, consider liking, subscribing, and maybe hitting that notification bell too. Let's get started with today's first story. Much love, everyone. Today's first story comes from my sister moved in with her husband in my house. He made rules in my house, immediately regretted it. My sister and her husband are living with me temporarily, so I agreed to let them stay with my dogs and me. I own a nice bungalow and it's just my dogs and me. It's a little crowded, but I can deal. I have a couple of little dogs and I like to make them raw food and it's healthy for them, and I like knowing what they eat. I use cheap ground meat and I mix in chopped vegetables, seeds and organ meat. I also mix in their doggy vitamins. I make up big batches whenever I find ground meat at a good price, then I make patties out of the mix and freeze them at night. I take out a couple of patties and leave them in the fridge to thaw out for the next day's food. When I was out yesterday, my brother-in-law saw the hamburgers in my fridge and decided to grill them up and eat them. When I got home, I went to feed my dogs, but the food was obviously not there. So I asked my sister if she'd fed my dogs. While I was out, she said that her husband had eaten the burgers in the fridge. I giggled and said, "Oops. I guess I need to thaw more out." He heard me and said that they tasted off anyway. I told him the reason they tasted off was that they were dog food. He started dry heaving and saying he was going to puke. He yelled at me for keeping dog food around people's food. I yelled back that he was a guest and that while he was welcome to anything in the house, perhaps it would be best if he asked before he ate my food here. My sister are angry that I didn't label my dog food. I'm kind of angry that he complained. Yes, I would be a little grossed out too, but it's just funny. He isn't hurt or anything. There is nothing that isn't edible by humans in the food I make. I wouldn't eat it myself. Of course, part of the reason he's angry is that he says I took it lightly. All I did was joke that he would have a nice shiny coat. So am I the idiot, lol? Not the idiot. Check on him in 3 days. Stand behind him and pet his hair and say something like, "Yes, those omega-3s are helping." I also feed raw patties. If someone was going to be stupid enough to eat random food in my fridge, oh well, it's probably healthier than what he regularly eats. Anyways, agree. This is hilarious. Even if you have a you can eat whatever policy, I will never just grill up. Obviously prepped burger patties in my host fridge. That's impolite to me, because someone who is not you prepared them and meant to eat them, and then you just come in and decide to grill them up without asking. It's just rude. But the fact that it was meant for the dogs is hilarious and should be a lesson learned, lol. As for labeling your dog food, well, your house is not set up as a guest house, and how you deal with the contents of your fridge is your business. You're a nice person for housing your sister and her husband at least. They should be grateful for that. Nobody died, but your dog did have to wait for their next meal. Brother-in-law is overreacting. It wasn't intentional on your part, and it is funny. Maybe cat brother-in-law a new squeaky toy to smooth things over. My 48 male daughter's 26th wedding was yesterday. She moved back to our home state of Utah with her fiancé after living in Boston for college and dental school. She didn't seem happy to be back here and said she only moved back because her husband's 28 company transferred him here. She knows that in our area, families run large. She's one of 3 kids only because my wife 47 became sick after our youngest, and it's not uncommon to have families of 8. So when she started planning her wedding, she started worrying about venue capacity and having to spend money on babysitters for couples with small kids on her list. She made it clear that she couldn't accommodate kids 4 or under at this wedding. That caused a lot of ire, and we got phone calls asking why. My daughter's rationale was that she thought older kids would enjoy a party more. My daughter's younger sister Ashley, 24, female, has been married for 2 years and begged her sister to invite her husband's brother and his wife to this wedding too. Ashley's brother-in-law 41, his wife 33, and have 5 kids, 4 of whom are under the age of 4. When they are SVP'd, they indicated they'd only be bringing their preteen daughter. I know Ashley's husband's brother well, as he funded my brother's new business and employs Ashley's husband, my son-in-law, in a job that allows Ashley and him to be full-time parents to their kids. However, that side of the family took a while to warm up to Ashley, as they were wary of newcomers. So the day of the wedding comes and everybody arrives with the kids. They are SVP'd for, and then Ashley's brother-in-law arrives early with all 5 of their kids into the nanny they have. Their kids is not there. My daughter is angry when she hears of this, and they explain that their younger kids were upset and wanted to be in these wedding pictures too. An argument ensues where my daughter says that they had on-call nannies and just for whatever reason decided this was the event they didn't want to leave their kids, for I look over and Ashley is getting upset and her brother-in-law and sister-in-law won't budge, the toddlers again anxious and starting to cry loudly. And I finally tell my daughter just to let them in or we'd be here forever. She asked why I was taking their side and I finally said that she needs to lift this child-free policy for the family or cancel the wedding. Because I was done with her rules and leaving. My daughter says, "Really, Dad, way to take sides." She then stormed off, and there was a minute where she considered walking down the aisle with her future father-in-law. She ends up relenting but says her wedding is marred by this event. Am I the idiot? I was afraid that this would become this standoff and Ashley would face Aya from her in-laws up. You are the idiot, and so is the unwanted guest and their unwanted children. Your daughter did her best to be gracious and allow that family to attend only to be kicked in the teeth by them, and you caused a scene at her wedding, not her. She was simply trying to hold firm to a reasonable boundary during her wedding, and went full idiot and threw a tantrum like I'm going to leave. This wedding is over. You can justify it by saying you were trying to keep peace in someone else's family, but you did it at the cost of the peace in your own family. Ashley's husband's brother funded my brother's new business, so I decided to invite brother's co-founder's whole damn family. Of course, it was hard to follow the chain. Opie didn't even give the bride daughter a name, but he mentions Ashley by name 9 times. You're right, Ashley was a good girl and got a man young, you see. Let us know if you're excited about this story. Press A if you liked the video. Press B if not. Your comments really push me to find more stories that are positive and have meaning. The eldest daughter is a crone of 26, who's wasted precious fertile years, learning books in a big coastal city. Why on earth does she deserve a name? I just weep for the bride, with no name. You clearly have a favorite, and it's not the nameless daughter that just got married. Father of the Year way to ruin your daughter's special day and probably your relationship with her and her side of the family. How do you think all the other people felt when they saw 4 toddlers walking in after being told they couldn't bring their own hope, kissing Ashley's in-laws' families, but was worth it? That's clearly everything you seem to care about. I.e. 27 female have a very young stepdaughter Becca, with my husband, Kevin 30 50-50 parenting plan with his ex Wendy 32 female. I've been in Becca's life since she was a baby, and no, I was not an affair partner. They mutually chose to split up long before I met him. His ex is super high conflict, tries to keep me from spending any bonding time with Becca, and just is constantly harassing my husband, me, and his family members. That's in the process of being handled in court. Basically, she's nice when she needs something and we try to all work together for Wendy, and she's insane when we disagree on something or just randomly when she feels like being crazy. You never really know when she's going to lose it. Well, Wendy, you got her car repoed and she's been out of a car for a while, taking lifts when she can and getting rides from people. Well, her week came up and she had no one available to give her a ride to pick up Becca from school. So she called me. I'm currently pregnant, and the last thing I want to do is interact with her. She just recently emailed my mother asking her to talk to me and tell me to stay out of parenting business so she can raise her daughter properly. Insane. She didn't even know my mom, so she searched the internet for her info. She asked if I would be willing to drop Becca off to her. I said no. She tried being nice and begging, but I said no. My husband was working, so he couldn't do it. I picked up Becca and brought her to our house, and Wendy wasn't able to pick her up until 3 days later. My husband said, that's her problem, and if she doesn't have the means to pick her up from school, she has no right to treat me and him the way she has and expects me to help her. On the other hand, my friend is a single mom and she told me that's not how you co-parent, and I, or my husband, should have put our differences aside to let Becca see her mom. Becca didn't care and was happy to stay with us. She could also call and speak with her mom whenever she wanted, which she didn't, and her mom never called to speak to her. I don't know, I'm not a bio mom, yet I will be soon, so maybe I'm missing the mark. Wendy is obviously angry and accusing us of alienation. The paragraphs and calls are non-stop. Co-parenting is tough. Am I the idiot? Heck, if she could track down your mom? I'm surprised she didn't just ask your mother to pick her up or drop your daughter off. Instead, she just complained about you. You're right, it's insane. You are not the idiot. I'm not a parent or even a step-parent, but I can see this. The most important fact for me boils down to this. If she couldn't even drive over to pick her up or get someone to do it for her, what would she do if there was an emergency and Becca needed to go to the hospital? Sometimes ambulances take too long. Sometimes parents can lose full custody because they have no transportation method to see to a child's needs. You are the idiot. I think it's extremely short-sighted of you. You're currently in court to modify the custody agreement. Yes, if you have a 50-50 arrangement and you're not facilitating visitation, that could look really bad in court. Wendy could easily argue that you're preventing her from seeing her daughter. I'm not saying that's what you're doing, but I think this could look bad in court. I'd encourage you to keep your eye on the long-term goal. No, people can't expect to be rude and have benefits. You cannot have it. Both ways. Stay out of parenting and do parent things. For me, Opie, you've been told to stay out of parenting. Picking up and dropping off is a parenting decision unless the parents designate a proxy. Your husband has said no, and as the custodial parent in your home, his word is the final one. You've done nothing wrong. Stay as far away from the impending explosion as you can. You're pregnant and do not need the stress. My dad died when I was 7 years old. He was my favorite person, my mom's favorite person at the time, and I kind of think he was the person who could complement our personalities enough for us to be super close. Even as a little kid, I knew that it broke the two of us when he died, but then she found someone else. She found Luke. She married Luke 2 years later and he became her person. Luke, upon realizing my dad being the parent I was closest to, tried to fill that space and was unwilling to listen when I said that space was reserved for my dad. It caused some tension over time. I let some things go. They would call themselves my parents or my mom and dad. I always called him Luke. I always tell people close to me about my dad and would make sure it was known. Luke was not dad. Now that I'm several years out of their house, our relationship is amicable, but not close. I don't hate them, but my mom and I still don't mesh well, and Luke still wants to fill that role my dad had, and I still don't want him to ever since I got engaged. My mom has been more present. She's told me how she always dreamed of this day, etc. Over time, she brought up how she and Luke couldn't wait to see him walk me down the aisle and give me my father-daughter dance, and how they were excited to be mom and dad of the bride. Of course, I told her none of that was happening. She told me it was always her dream, though, from the time she found out she was expecting a girl. She couldn't wait to watch me on my dad's arm and in his arms for a dance. I told her that was possible when dad was alive, but not when he was gone. She told me it was still possible. There was still my dad Luke who deserved it. They both did. I told her I was walking with my fiancé and no father-daughter dance would happen. I told her he would not be listed as the father of the bride anywhere because he's not my father. I ended up telling her to leave and I went back to less contact. Then my mom showed up unannounced and started to tell me all about this dream again and what it meant to her, and I told her without hesitation that her dream stopped being possible when my dad died, because he was not here to do that stuff and that Luke was never going to be filling my dad's role for me. I told her she might be able to switch them out easily, but I was not. She left in tears telling me I'd punished her for moving on and punish my dad for not being cow. My dad, the chin, my dad deserved better than that, and I was spiteful. Am I the idiot? Edit. Luke cut up cards I had made and give her my dad for Father's Day that my dad had kept safe before he died, and cut up the back and left the front, and then turned them into a collage, and acted like there were cards I had given him when he and my mom brought out my birth certificate for something he told me. He couldn't wait to see his name instead of the old husband. He told me my dad had done nothing special and that he could do what my dad had done for my mom and me, but better. My mom just erased my dad, and added Luke, then expected me to do the same. She even went as far as taking photo frames with stuff like our family or dad and daughter, and replacing them with photos that included Luke instead of my dad. She also told me more than once that Luke was our new favorite person, or would say Dad's our favorite person like always, and it was always about Luke, not the idiot. You don't consider Luke as your father, period. Your mom and Luke should accept it once and for all, and your mom should also cease her emotional blackmailing. Maybe if Luke hadn't tried to replace your dad, he'd been much better standing with you. Even if it was so, it is all down to your decision. Be ready for the flying monkeys to come at you about how you're unreasonable, etc., etc. I'd be ready to block the lot. Yeah, maybe if he hadn't stomped on the feelings of a grieving 9-year-old, I'd have more respect for him. Yeesh, those edits make my head hurt. I would reconsider inviting him and the mother as well. Luke wanted a ready-made family and didn't care what kind of damage he was doing to his daughter. Mom is the biggest idiot here. Instead of helping her child grieve the loss of their favorite person, she just tried to shove any male into that spot. I don't think anything Opie says will drive those points home for either of them. They think they're in the right. If Mummy can't drop it, it might be time to go no contact. Days ago I stay at home. Mom with 3 was doing laundry where my husband, breadwinner, who works as a pilot, asked if I could iron his uniform before a shift. I didn't say yes, because I was busy laundry, then kids' homework, then cooking, etc. I said I might not find the time to do it. He turned around and walked away, completely ignoring what I was saying. An hour later, he came downstairs freaking out, asking why I didn't iron his uniform when he asked me to. I told him I was busy and reminded him of how I didn't say yes to his request. He blew up, saying that I obviously don't care about him. Displaying professionalism at work. It's just a uniform, it's not like it was dirty, just needed some ironing. He lectured me about how his work is important and, although I'm a stay-at-home mom, I should still make his job a priority. He decided to miss his shift as a way to teach me a lesson and show me how my lack of cooperation and my refusal to help him out could affect the money that kept coming in. I called him insane for missing the shift, and he got offended and called me a hypocrite for calling him insane and acting all surprised when it was me who caused this situation to happen. I mean, I could have taken some time from my chores to iron his uniform, but I still thought his reaction was a bit much. Am I the idiot? Attention passengers of Flight 4033. Unfortunately, your flight has been cancelled because your pilot were perfectly capable of operating a highly complex 450-ton machine, was not able to iron his work shirt and therefore had to stay home to sulk. Our sincere apologies for the inconvenience, not the idea, often to call his boss to apologize and explain why he missed his shift. Personally, he didn't go to work to teach you a lesson for not ironing his uniform. He is petty enough to risk his family's well-being over an ironed shirt. I'm not sure how comfortable I would feel with my life in the hands of someone that petty for me. Anytime an adult says they are or want to teach a lesson to another adult is a massive red flag and causes you to distance yourself away from them. I'm going to turn this one over to you. What do you make of this situation? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And as always, a huge thank you from the bottom of my heart for getting involved in today's stories. Your love, support, and time mean the world to me. So, thank you so much for being part of this. I really appreciate your time. I'll see you in the next one. Take care and much love.